Hey everyone, my name is Corey, and today we're going to be looking at another one of the packages within the Google Nick collection. So today we're using Photoshop, and we've got this nice statue here, which makes for a pretty good multiple exposure concepts. So generally, if you're doing multiple exposure, you kind of want like a profile shot. I know it's a little bit blurry, but for the tutorial purposes, this will work. But if you want like a profile shot, and then like kind of like on a solid background, and then maybe if you're going for putting a mountain or some kind of tree line, the kind of artsy album style that you've been seeing lately. The Google Nick collection actually has some presets for that. Generally, it's probably a good idea to do it by hand, especially if you're using Photoshop. You should go ahead and do that. But we're going to go ahead and look at the Analog Efex Pro 2 within the Google collection. So we'll go ahead and open it up here, and it's very similar to the Color Efex Pro that, or the Silver Efex Pro that I made previously. So when we open it up, we have our picture here in the center. We have our loop and histogram, and again, what these mean is the loop is your kind of a pinpoint to where you want to look in a little bit closer. And you can take this little pin here and drag it on to a certain point. And the histogram is a histogram of color. In this case, we have our RGB and then our whites or the grays, so we can click around and get different things if we want to specifically target or look at one thing. So we open our image here, and we have a couple different presets, of course. But again, if you're using, if you're doing photography, then generally I never use presets. It's always fun to kind of get your own desired effect. But what's cool about it is Analog Efex, the purpose of it is to make your picture look like it was from a film camera, or give it kind of an old-timey effect. Maybe give a little kind of grain and stuff like that. But what's cool as well is if we go click this little arrow here, it gives us all the tools and all the combinations. So if you want to go black and white, you can go black and white. If you want to go double exposure, for example, is what I was talking about. We have all the presets here, but let's go ahead and do our own. So if we just remove all of this stuff, which I think if we just if we select double exposure, it's going to ask you for your second exposure image. So I'm going to go ahead and select something. Let's go ahead and check. Let me find a good image here really quickly. Here, no, edit, no, label, long exposure. Okay, so sorry that took long. Let's just select kind of this longer exposure shot that I got at night. So we'll go ahead and open up. It'll load the texture. It'll do its little algorithm. And look at that. That looks actually really good for something that's a preset. And all we did was just import two images. Like, this is passable for a double exposure. Honestly, it looks really good. But anyways, that's one of the options that you can do. And of course, there are also so many other tools we have here. Photo plate, vignette, film type. You can change the different types of lens distortion and stuff like that, motion blur. And if you hover over each of these tools here, you'll see at the bottom left, you'll get a little blurb about what it does. So for example, photo plate uses to simulate the organic textures that can be created in a dark room. So it'll tell you what these tools are for, which is super helpful. And then you can build your own camera or use one of these other kind of cameras here. So if you want to do black and white, again, we have some presets. This one looks interesting. Let's look at this. I'll load the texture. Oh, it looks pretty cool, actually. But again, you have all these presets. You can save your presets. You can look at your history for different things that you use. You can import other people's presets, save your own, stuff like that. So again, this is very simple to use. It's so easy to use, especially in Photoshop when things can kind of get overwhelming. But again, you can create your own stuff, and I do encourage you to play around because that's the most fun of using Photoshop. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you for watching. This has been Corey from the Techies.